We all have idols in our life. I'm not talking about totem poles or a little bobblehead statue or something that's sitting around, but we have these things or people in our life that we make ultimate. We take something that's good in our life, but we make it an ultimate thing, something that we can't live without. Tim Keller speaks and talks about this in awesome and powerful ways. He says, an idol is anything more important to you than God, and it starts to absorb our heart and our imagination. Well, none of us want that, but all of us have them. We have them connected to control issues. We have them connected to approval, fear of man. We have them connected to our comfort and our preferences, and we have them connected to power and trying to earn and gain everything. It doesn't have to be that way. Jesus died that we might see He is the better. He is the fulfillment of all those needs so that we can truly rest.
Welcome to the Everyday Disciple podcast, where you'll learn how to live with greater intentionality and an integrated faith that naturally fits into every area of life. In other words, discipleship as a lifestyle. This is the stuff your parents, pastors, and seminary professors probably forgot to tell you. And now, here's your host, Caesar Kalinowski.
Hey, Heath, are you and the family getting ready for Easter yet?
I mean, I remember back in February looking at the stores, and they already had Easter stuff out. And
Can you tell me something? How does Easter, which is even I think socially still people connect it to Christ and His resurrection?
Yeah.
How did we ever get this bunny and eggs connection? Because those don't even work. Those don't even. I mean, you just want to chuck the spiritual connotation of Easter, which the world has not even done yet.
Yeah.
Where do we get eggs?
I have no clue.
Colored eggs, not even white eggs.
Yeah.
You know, and then bunnies.
A creepy bunny. Yeah. I actually remember working for a really attractional church before Soma days. And they did this thing where they actually hired a helicopter and they filled up a giant bucket full of eggs, and they had everyone at a local park, and the helicopter came and they dumped out 10,000 eggs, and it wasn't really well thought out because it was like,
Were they
boiled? No, they're like the little plastic eggs filled with candy.
Okay.
But I mean, 10,000 of these things smacking the
just
ground,
raining down and.
Yeah, and they're just popping them, and kids are snacking on them.
We take the grandkids now because my grown kids aren't that into these eggs, but we take them to a local park here that it's free, and there's a gazillion of those plastic eggs, and they set them all out in a field, and they do age and stage of life so that the 1 and 2 year olds are kind of running around together, and then the high school kids aren't trampling them because they shouldn't even be out there, and there's bunnies, and there's little goats and lambs, a little Easter lamb and all. That's
No
great.
Jesus. No, yeah.
No, not a lot of Jesus at the park. Not a lot of Jesus in the park, but
It is
if
interesting.
you listen to last week's episode on apologetics, making for poor evangelism, then you know how I roll when I get there.
Start throwing tracks and eggs.
Oh yeah, I just replace as many eggs as I can with chick tracks. I'm about burning in hell. Yeah.
Chick tracks. The pun is intended.
Yeah.
Hey.
Oh wow, that was
funny?
good. Easter chick tracks.
Easter
Okay,
chicken,
gotcha.
yeah.
I get you.
Hey, this week we wanted to do a topic on how to recognize 4 different potential major idols in our lives, right? And we like to start with definitions because this actually has, if we start off on the wrong trajectory, some people could be thinking about like a literal golden cow, and others are talking about something else.
Yeah, and I think a few years ago, no one was talking about idols. Right? Tim Keller started kind of hipping us to that. I think. I mean, not that we never did, but I can remember as a kid when they talked about not having idols, in your life, I assumed it meant like a totem pole, literally.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
I thought it meant like, and there are still some people that think like you should have no statues in your house, or like you shouldn't even have like a crucifix.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's an idol. Or
That's
something.
why we used to live near the Amish, and they wouldn't let you take pictures of them because they consider that a graven image of themselves. Yeah.
And so we might have some listeners that are there today. I think most of us are probably past that, right?
Sure.
And they see idols as something else in life. So let's go to Tim Keller's definition of this. In his book, Counterfeit Gods is amazing. If you've not read Counterfeit Gods, then I will put a link in the show notes to it.
Okay.
It is an A++er, man. Like read it, reread it, reread it. Have you read it?
Yep. Keller's a beast, man.
So good. He says, an idol is anything more important to you than God, anything that absorbs your heart and imagination more than God, anything you seek to give you what only God can give. He says it's making a good thing in your life an ultimate thing. So an idol is whatever you look at and say in your heart of hearts, if I have that, then I'll feel my life has meaning. Or if this goes on, then I'll know I have value. Or if this person approves of me, then I'll know I have value. Then I'll feel significant and secure. There are many ways to describe that kind of relationship to something, but you know what I think really describes it well? Worship.
Huh.
We worship something. We give something more worth than it has. We give it, in fact, greater worth in our life, affection, attention, significance than God himself. So I think it is a form of false worship.
Wow, man.
And it's not a totem pole. It can be, well, we're going to talk about it. It's,
We're like 2 minutes in and I'm already feeling pretty convicted about this, right? Leave it to Keller to drop that powerful bomb.
oh, it's true. But we all have them, man. They're lurking.
Yeah.
And today, yeah.
Let's look at the 4 big overarching idols that actually many of our smaller idols kind of fall under and grow from.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see what they look like, how they affect us, how they affect others. But the 4 kind of meta idols that we're going to talk about are control, approval, comfort, and power. And I think as we go through this, we're going to see that this is a whole lot more attainable to get some control over than we initially might have thought, right?
I think so. I mean, it's always lurking, but yes, I think once we can expose the idol, bring it out of darkness into light, and apply the good news of the gospel, yeah, I think that we're going to see some transformation. Okay.
Okay, so control. Let's look at that one.
Control. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at each one of these. Okay. And you can go deeper into these again if you want to get my book, Bigger Gospel, and you want to really dig into these. And I'll even give you away at the end of the show here to get it for free. Fair enough, right? Okay, so I'm not hawking it. You can get it for free. Okay, so let's look at control. We're going to look at each of these 4, control, approval, comfort, and power. And we're going to look at what's the desire that we actually have in our heart.
Okay.
And what's the price we're willing to pay to like have it?
Yep.
What's our greatest nightmare or fear connected to it if we don't have it? How others often feel when we're pursuing this idol. And then what's the underlying problem emotion or, that's under there. So with control, our desire there is it's going to expose itself through self-discipline, certainty, standards that we set for ourselves and everyone else. Sound familiar?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And what's the price we're willing to pay? We'll be overworked. We'll even be lonely or like, well, people don't understand this or people just settle for too less or whatever. Or if they just suck at that, and that's if they didn't suck like me, if they didn't, right? That's that price we'll pay is being overworked or even kind of outside.
Sure.
Right? Our greatest nightmare connected to that is uncertainty. We want to control everything. I want to know how it goes. Like, I don't like last minute things. I don't like change. Right?
Yep.
Don't spring that on me. And I can remember my dad, if you asked him anything that he had to do in kind of soon proximity, was no.
Really?
Then he would think about it and then ask a couple questions. And then sometimes he was okay with it. But it was his immediate response was always no. And it was because his greatest nightmare was uncertainty because he couldn't control that. Or I might not be able to control it. But once he thinks through it, then, okay, maybe I could still have control.
Yeah.
All right. Now, others, when we're pursuing control and standards for ourselves and them and all that, they often can feel very condemned by us. And I'm going to raise my hand and say, I'm guilty of this idol. And I've had people say, man, you are very intimidating. And it's I live with a certain level of discipline in my life, but I think it probably leaks out on others.
Sure.
And they're thinking, oh, he's setting that standard for me too. I don't want that to be the case. They can feel very pushed by us if we're kind of control is our idol. People feel kind of pushed and forced, and it's got to be your way or the highway and that kind of thing, right?
Yep.
And our biggest like emotional hang up with it is and problem is worry and fear. And that's always on the other side of control. I try to control what I fear. And I fear being out of control.
Yeah.
They're two sides to the same. There's two sides to the same coin. How's that idol in your life? I mean, is that a big one of those 4? Or what do you see growing out of a control idol?
Yeah, I mean, I could see I relate to all of them, right? Control. I was just thinking as you're talking about a situation that happened even the other day with us living, Northwest isn't the cheapest and my wife stays home. And so now I feel the weight of having to make all the money. And if I lose this, like if I'm not working hard enough, we're going to lose everything. And I remember it was after dinner, like 2 hours after dinner, and I found 2 cups half full of milk around the house and I just lost it. And I was like, I'm working my butt off trying to pay for our bills and we're wasting, that's probably 60 cents worth of milk right there. And just, it was like, no, like God, we have to remember, like if we're taking this back to the 4Gs, like God's great. He hasn't forgotten about us. The idea of control itself is disillusioning because you can't control anything.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. You know what
You
I
can't
mean?
make more milk.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And you just mentioned the 4 Gs. And you said God is great. And so there's a follow-up to that. God is great, so I don't have to be in control of people or situations. And the gospel connection to that is Jesus was raised from the dead when all seemed lost. But in fact, God was great and he was in control. And he was saving us in that very act that seems so out of control. They're killing the Son of Man. They're just
Yeah.
killing the Son of God. And we look to the cross and we go, no, 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 no. We don't have to be in control. God is in control. He's great.
If you haven't yet, it's reminding me of episode 195 when we actually look at the 4 Gs in connection to our parenting styles, or even back at episode 131 where we look at the 4 Gs and how it relates to all sin in our lives. So if you're
Yeah.
listening and you're like, what are these 4 Gs? Episode 131 and 195 are great.
Yeah, we
follow-ups
won't
to
take
this.
a whole lot of time to explain each of them, but just in the hearing of it, if you have a control idol, like you're hearing us talk about this and you're going, oh, yeah, that's one of mine. Let me just remind you, God is great, so you don't have to be in control. Okay?
Absolutely.
And here's the question to ask yourself. Am I really in control of this situation or person or their actions or their response? Who is really in control of all things?
Our good
And-
Father.
Right, our good Father. And sometimes I just need to be reminded of that, Heath.
Yeah, me too, man.
I do. And so, and you can say, well, yeah, you're right, but I'm still going to be that way. Why? Like dethrone the idol. Quit worshiping it. Quit giving your control as if you're greater than God.
Yeah.
Do you really think you are? No. And like you already said, we're not really in control of anything. Our earth could stop like right now.
Yep.
Boom. Stops. Every day in the news. Boom.
Yeah.
Someone we know just died. Like my age, just dropped dead. Ding. Like boom. An aneurysm or something. Gone. Friend's husband. We're not in control of anything. So ask yourself, am I really in control of this situation or person? Who really is?
Yeah.
Remind yourself of that.
All right, let's go to the next one, which I know I'm going to have to expose my sin on this one. It's approval.
Yeah. Okay. So approval. It's one of the meta idols, the things we serve that we freak out on having. Our greatest desire there is to be affirmed, to have affirmation, to be loved. We desire love and approval from people, right? And so if approval is our main idol or a big one in our life, then we're gonna look for that from everybody. We're just not enough.
Yeah.
That's what leads to sometimes not healthy relationships. In fact, those are some of the prices we're willing to pay: is codependency, or maybe we give ourselves away sexually in ways we shouldn't, or emotionally in ways that we really shouldn't, because we're just so desiring affirmation and love.
Well, when I think about the one for approval, which is so close to me, like the greatest nightmare, the greatest fear is just rejection, not being loved.
That's right.
Not being wanted.
Right. That's right. And often, it's kind of weird how this works. Often others will feel smothered by us because we're just insatiable of our need to be, always get the laugh, have the last word,
Absolutely.
feel right, get approved. It's like, you're right. And I know people like this where like you can see them in a party just gravitate to whoever they perceive to be the most glorious in the room, and they'll do anything to gain their approval.
Yep. Oh, I've
And
seen
you're
it.
thinking,
Yeah.
wow, you're a great person. You're a great guy, right?
Yeah.
Now, notice that like our desires for affirmation and love and deep relationship, those are good things.
Yeah.
But who ultimately is supposed to supply that for us? The only one who can give us perfect affirmation or perfect love or have a nonstop, unending, perfect, loving relationship is God. God is glorious. Here's the G that connects to that. God is glorious, so I don't have to fear others. Jesus took our rejection upon himself at the cross, and he earned us full approval before the Father.
Yeah.
Like, remind yourself of that gospel, right? So here's the question we ask ourselves, if that is our idol of approval. Why do I so desire this person's approval or for them to like me? Did that person or maybe this situation or thing die for me to bring me forgiveness and restoration to my life? No, absolutely not. So dethrone that person or thing a little bit.
Yeah, that takes work, man. Kathleen and I are in marriage counseling right now, and we actually last night just finished up this like a spiritual inventory of where we're scoring. And 10, if you get a 1, you're doing pretty good. If you get a 10, it's like you got to work. When it came to approval, Kathleen got a 2, like no problem for her. And
Not a major idol.
not at all. And Jay, our counselor, looked at me. He's like, "So Heath, you scored a 10 in this," and he's like, "That's high." So you guys have work to do. And I noticed it. Like, it's driven my emotion. Like the emotional kind of problem that I have is this massive insecurity, right? And so I do put that on others. At the need of feeling approved of myself because I'm not getting it from Christ, I'm smothering people around me.
Yeah, because they're not going to ever give you what
No.
God could give you, right? And we've had some of this in our marriage as well.
Yeah.
So just so you're not alone in that. And, and there was a time where Tina said, I'm expecting you to love me perfectly at all times and meet every emotional need.
Good luck.
Only God could do that. I'm crushing you. I don't know how that you could ever live up under that. And I'm sorry, right? So there again, we're taking something that's good, God created good, his affection, his affirmation, his love, a deep relationship, but we're seeking it from someone else other than God.
Absolutely, man. All right. So number 3 is comfort, which is actually one that most people probably wouldn't think of. But
Yeah, comfort as an idol, right?
Yep.
So here's the desire that kind of shows itself. This is how it looks. It looks like I need to have privacy. I need to have my time alone. I want to control my environment a lot. I desire a lack of stress. Like I don't want stress. I don't want stress. I want freedom of choice, freedom of decision. I can't make decision of like, are you going to come to the party? Well, maybe I'll let you know. I'm always holding out, because, I want an easy life. I'm always, I'm waiting for, like I'm living for retirement kind of thing, or I'm living for Friday, and the price that we'll pay for this comfort is selfishness sometimes.
Yeah.
Or it could be really an ineffectiveness in life. Like we say no to most things because that we could be a part of, or maybe being able to bless other people because, well, it might not go right, or I don't want to work that hard, or I was really I like to come home after work and do, right? So kind of like the flip side then, like what is the thing we fear? What's our greatest nightmare in this? Well, it would be stress. I don't like to be in stressful situations. That's our greatest nightmare. So I'll avoid everything. That's how I have comfort. I can, see how it's kind of tied to control though?
Yeah.
I'll control my environment and my use of time. I don't like demands being put upon me. That's not comfortable because that kicks my approval idol up
interesting.
a little bit. Dig? Or pain or loss. I don't, we have this really nice house, but what if we can't keep it? Or like, what if the car breaks down and I have to borrow someone's car? Oh, it's gonna be so embarrassing. I had to borrow it last month, or whatever,
Sure.
right? That's our greatest nightmare because we just want comfort. We want comfort. Okay. Now, the problem emotion, the thing that's hiding there, is often we're just bored or we're just discontent with life. We're not that grateful. We really aren't.
Yeah.
And so we've been given so much. And I think in our culture here in the West, certainly in America, we've been given so much, and we have sort of a comfort culture, and a comfort idol is maybe one of our biggest ones, believe it or not. And just so out of boredom, we're like, what's next? And I don't want to do that, or like this will be more comfortable, like
Sure.
right? And we're just not that content. So what's the truth about God that goes with that one? God is good, so I don't have to look elsewhere for my satisfaction. And the gospel reminds us Jesus is the Father's greatest gift ever. And it was given to us, and he's enough. He's enough in absolutely every area of our life. So that it fills us up so that we can, if we have our comfort in him, then we can be for others and we can be like he was. So here's the question to ask yourself. Am I trying to fill my life with things that I believe are better than God? Or manage my time or my day or my life in a way that's better than God could manage it? Is this time or experience or situation better or more good than God? Like, so I don't want to do that. I want to do this. And so you don't want to do that. I'm going to just, where does my true affection lie? That's what we have to ask ourselves.
Yeah, that's a good question.
And that'll start to expose to, like, do we have a comfort idol? Like we're trying to manage everything so there's just no stress. It's the easiest possible life. I think I get convicted for this because I think back to when my kids were younger, and I think this was one of my biggest idols. Like if they spilled something or broke something, or there was a huge mess, or we had to do something again, it was cutting in on my comfort.
Wow.
It was cutting in on my freedom. They're not here for that. They're here to help. They're not here to be a hassle. And I get very convicted of this, and I think God's taken an axe to the root of this in many, many ways. But I can feel it. I can feel it raise its head sometimes.
Sure.
I really can.
I would say the same thing.
And I have to come back to that question, am I trying to order my life and fill my life with everything because I think it's better than what God gives, including spilt milk and other things?
Sure. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Kathleen and I actually talk about this quite a bit too, because comfort is the big one for her. And I tend to not.
Wow, you
I'm
just
more
outed your wife. Wow.
I know. She'll forgive me, right? But she's more of like a 7 or 8 on that, and I'm at a 2. So it's working together with patience and learning to serve one another, and remembering that God is good. We don't have to look elsewhere, right, for our satisfaction.
Man, so good.
Okay, so power is the last one that we're going to talk about.
Power.
Yeah.
And you're going to see how this one's tied to control idols as well, right?
Yep.
But in this sense, it's like the desire is success. It's influence. It's that kind of power. It's not a control power. It's more like that. It's more like influence. Think of that. And the price that we'll pay for this is we'll work our guts out. We'll take on the burden. We'll take that responsibility. You want to sign up for that? Yeah, I'll sign up for that. So my son's first year at his law firm, right?
Yep.
This year, very big, very high powered. The stuff they're working on, it's mind blowing to me. And it's all connected to entertainment industry. So it's really, really fun.
Yeah, it's cool.
Well, because he's a first year associate, he's constantly being asked, hey, you want to take this? You want to grab this part of this case? You want to be in on this case with me? And he's trying to make a name for himself a little bit. So this power, this influence idol is right there staring him in the face all the time. And we talk about it all the time. He's like, I had to turn this down today, or I said yes to this today, but I'm kind of wondering, like why I did,
That's
and all that.
fascinating.
Yeah. So, because the greatest nightmare connected to this power idol would be a lack of respect. I want to be seen. I want everybody to respect me. I want to be seen as the best, the smartest, Johnny on the spot. That's why the price we'll pay will be like super burdened, fried, not getting enough sleep, burnt out all the time. People in ministry, this can be a big one. We want to be seen, we want to be influential in our churches. We want to be seen as the lady who's got the answers, the man with the plan, and all that. So we will take on everything. But then, because it starts to collapse, then we'll start to make it everybody else's problem.
Right. And then they start feeling used by us, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly. And the problem emotion connected to this is we can get very angry when things don't go our own way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I really wanted that, or how could I give that thing to that person? Or how come we just had this meeting and they said, oh, I just really want to make sure we thank so-and-so. Like, you didn't see what I did, and it's
exactly.
all that kind of stuff. You're never getting enough credit. So you kind of get angry.
So what G would you tie to that one?
Okay. So the truth about God that starts with a G, God is gracious. So I don't have to prove myself. And how we've taught it, and we learned this from Tim Chester, is I don't have to prove myself, to others, or God. I have nothing to earn. And the gospel reminds us that Jesus gave up his authority and power on the cross.
Yeah.
Right? Think about the authority and the power and the influence he had. He gave it all up on the cross to secure our position in the kingdom, to secure us forever, eternally in the family of God. Co-heirs now of all things. Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So here's the question to ask yourself if you think, or to start to deal with this idol of power. What am I trying to earn from this person or situation? What is it that I think I lack right now? Is it already mine as a dearly loved and beloved child of our Father in heaven? What's my true identity and authority and privilege as a daughter or a son of the King of Kings?
Wow, that reframes it all. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, it does. Now, you can notice with all these, it sounds like, well, if I could just ask myself, it'd be good. Yeah, in the moment, it's going to help. It's going to change. But over time, you're going to start to rewire your thinking, your belief. Remember, we say discipleship's the process of moving from unbelief to belief in every area. Well, certainly with our idols, right? But this is also a huge thing and reason, Heath, why we need to be living in community. I need you to remind me of this stuff.
Sure.
I need, when you see me flipping out on a certain thing or taking on too much work and burden and responsibility because I want to be seen as the man, or when you see me just like, I'm going after approval at all costs, I need you to remind me of the truth of the gospel and what's true of me, and maybe ask me some of those questions.
That's good.
I really do. And I need it like not once. Oh, thanks, that fixed it. I'm going to need it my whole life.
Yep. Constantly.
I am.
Different situations too, right? Like you even hear the way people talk about their lives, and you can see patterns and like, man, this is a pattern. I'm noticing this in you. That this comfort thing is really something important to you. And if you're not doing it in community and getting constantly called out.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't even have to point it out. You can just ask the question, like, like with that last one, it's like, hey, what are you trying to earn from that person right now?
Yeah.
Like, I saw you dancing.
Yeah.
Like you were really dancing and kind of puffing yourself up. And like, I was there for that story. It didn't quite go down like that. So what is it? What are you trying to earn?
Well, then you
like that's already yours.
Too, right?
That's yours already.
Yeah. Like, do you remember that you're a dearly beloved child of God? Yeah.
So, yeah, we were not created to live this alone. And remember, discipleship's the process of ourselves and helping others move from unbelief to belief and what's true of God and now ourselves, and then how we get to live.
Yeah.
And see how it all fits together?
Yeah.
We talk
Beautiful.
about everyday discipleship, life, a lifestyle of discipleship. This is all part of our growing and our fluency of the gospel. So I hope this has been helpful today.
Yeah, I'm assuming that there's going to be people that want some actual takeaways from this, maybe things that they can actually print out. And we have a free download for you. You can download it by going to everydaydisciple.com/big3. And those are the big 3 takeaways we want you to take away from this episode. If we could pull back the layers of the onion and get to the heart of it. Sum it up in 3
nothing
points.
else,
Yeah,
right?
nothing else.
So here's the 3 things. Don't miss this if nothing else. We all have hidden idols, big and small, and they'll come and go throughout our life. Sometimes I think God will slam,
Yep.
Often they're there so that in community we can be reminded of what's true and that we need each other and that God is, in fact, great and glorious and good and gracious. But remember, an idol is anything that's more important to you than God in the moment or long term, anything that absorbs your heart and imagination more than God. Like, where do your affections lie? How often does your mind go back to God and his goodness or his grace?
Sure.
Anything that you seek to give you what only God can give you, that's an idol. Focusing on who God is and what he's already done for you in Christ and what is now true of you will lead you out of that idolatry.
That's good, man. All right, number 2.
Okay, number 2, God knows you perfectly with all your idols, and he loves you unconditionally. Good news, right?
Yep.
And he gave his own life that you may know and believe this. So pay attention when your heart is saying, oh, if I have that, or then I'll feel like my life has meaning, or then I'll know I have value or feel significant and secure. Remember, you are a son or a daughter of the King, and you're co-heirs of all things in Christ. And that's pretty or very significant, okay?
Yeah.
That is super significant. And third, here's the actionable. Spend time in prayer, and this is for the bold, okay? Spend time in prayer asking the Spirit to point out any areas of your life that you're worshiping false gods. And I promise he will illuminate past conversations or anxiety or stresses or desires will come to mind. Write them all down as they come to your mind. Seriously, try this. Try this exercise. Just spend 15 minutes, say, Holy Spirit, would you point out, things that are going on in my life that my affections have shifted and I'm looking to other things besides you. Then seek to understand which of the idols of control, approval, comfort, or power are at work here and stealing your worship and devotion to the one true God. And remember, too, repentance is a renewing of the mind to what is actually true in those situations. So ask yourself those questions. Be reminded of what's true in the gospel. And so now you can go and live in light of that truth by the power of the Spirit.
Absolutely, man. And you're going to attach the list to the 4 idols as well as the corresponding concerns to help people out,
pretty
right?
much all that stuff we were saying. I have a little concise download that I'll add to the big 3. And again, a lot of this stuff comes out of the book Bigger Gospel. And I'm going to put a link in the big 3 in the show notes where people can get Bigger Gospel for free.
Oh, nice.
All they have to do is just pick up the shipping. Okay, fair enough. Like,
easy.
I wrote it, I printed it. You can have it, but you got to pay to get it to yourself.
Awesome.
Okay, so
We're giving away lots of stuff today. If you want the download again, all you have to do is go to everydaydisciple.com/big3. It's a beautiful printout. You can hang it on your refrigerator.
suitable for framing. No, it's not that nice, but it's pretty nice.
It's pretty nice, yeah. Hey, if you haven't yet been to iTunes to leave us a review, we ask that you do that. Just tell us what you love about the show. Give us a couple stars. That helps us put this podcast out in front of people that we would never expect.
And always too, you can leave suggestions for the show, or you can do that. People do that all the time in the Facebook group.
Yep.
So we love getting suggestions for the show. We're here for you. Tell us what we should talk about, okay? When it's connected to discipleship, mission, faith fitting into every area of life. That's what we're looking for.
That's why we're here.
We're not looking to debate church polity, or how you should kick Elder Jones off. That's your problem. But anything to do with discipleship, mission, gospel fluency, all that. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today. For more information on this show and to get loads of free discipleship resources, visit everydaydisciple.com. And remember, you really can live with the spiritual freedom and relational peace that Jesus promised every day.